Hi, everyone. We're going to get started in a few minutes here. Testing, testing. Okay, good. I could hear a little echo, and I think it was me, and I think I fixed it. All right. I'm going to start with my announcements while people trickle in here. So welcome, everybody, officially to the July meeting of the Bucks County Aquarium Society, as well as Greater City Aquarium Society is also joining us today. Announcements. So fishy business coming up. Most everything is canceled, so there's that. Bucks County did move to green phase a few days ago, but Bucks County is going to remain online until we announce otherwise. So just kind of keep assuming that we're going to have online meetings just for now while we kind of evaluate how things are going, because speakers, all our donations, our venue even, and many of our members continue to be impacted at this time with COVID or different things going on. So safety comes first. So we'll announce when, in the future we do bring it offline. But for now, just keep on keeping on. Each month we'll be online here. Check the website, check Facebook for online meetings for all our sister clubs as well. Many are still running just as we are through these times. Any of our sponsor events that we had planned are obviously going to be rescheduled at a later date. Our annual auction had been canceled. Also, our picnic clearly was canceled. We actually usually don't have a meeting this month, but this month, because we do not have the picnic, we are obviously here. So in the meantime, be safe. Practice social distancing, 1 sturgeon apart, everybody. Wash your hands often. Use hand sanitizer if you can't wash your hands. Obviously, wear masks. There's a new thing where you do have to wear a mask in Pennsylvania, so do that, please. Make sure that you're checking in on your loved ones. If you have elderly family friends, compromised family friends, check in on them. They're not having a great time right now because it could be hard for them to get out. So definitely check on everybody, make sure everybody's safe. Be good to your fish as well. You basically have no excuse at this point to not be staring at your fish right now. Make sure you're feeding sparingly. I know when you're staring at them this often, it's very easy to keep putting food in the tank. Control yourself. Make sure you have enough supplies for the next month or so. You don't want to end up running out of fish food right now, because a lot of the, if you can't get out, online stores are a little backed up. So plan ahead and do your weekly water changes and hoard your Breeders' Award points. This is going to be a year where we are not going to know who the winner is to the very end, because everybody is doing what they're doing and hoarding points right now. And every month, as I say, if you're a Bucks County member or local to Bucks County and you ran out of food, ran out of water conditioner, anything like that, please contact me. We're in this together. We'll definitely help you out. and connect with us. You know, join our Facebook page, check out the website. We're here. A lot of us don't have much else to do right now, so get your fishy updates through the Facebook. And also, you're still able to renew membership on the Bucks County website, bcasonline.com. I've seen, I think, 3 people this past month that have signed up or renewed, so it's definitely still there, and that's how you get to partake in the auctions and raffles and such, so it's still there. Our auction today, as I just mentioned, auctions, and we haven't had auctions, so this is the new thing. We got a bunch of large tank donations. There is a man in Ambler that said, hey, I have a big fish room and I'd like to donate to the club. And I said yes. So you might have seen a bunch of pictures about the different fish that got rehomed through the club. I had to catch a few like 26-inch arowanas, and that was an interesting time. But now all the tanks are empty and they need to go to new homes. So if you visit this website, which I've also linked in the YouTube comments at the very top if you scroll up, this auction is open to all Bucks County members. And there are, I think, 6 different setups. And it's all silent auction style, and it will be up until 11 p.m. tonight. About half of them have bids at this point. So I'd really like if every one of them had bids. And so I don't have to move the tanks and store them myself, because I don't want to do that. The auction's pretty simple. Once you click the link, you're going to ask for access. And then I'm going to look at my phone during this meeting, and it's going to pop up and it's going to say, oh, do you know this person? Do you let them in? And it says Tom, so I'm not going to let him in. But if you're a member and I like you, I'm going to let you in. So, and it's fairly straightforward bidding that way. So check it out. And if you win, I can also help with the lifting of the tanks. But if you win the 265, you're going to need a bunch more people. So plan a big truck, plan people for that. You're going to need a lot of help. Our raffle prize today is saltcritters.com gift certificates. We have 2 sets. One is going to be a $60 prize and one's going to be a $40 prize. So if you're a Bucks County member, you had this emailed to you, the link to enter this. And then also just say your name in the comments on YouTube so we can confirm that you're here, and then you're entered, and we'll announce at the end. And our speaker today is Larry Flint, who you see below me here. This topic is Reef Aquarium Systems in schools. Larry is the president of the Reef Conservation Society and teaches physics and oceanography at Williamsport Area High School in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. He runs the Society's Tanks in Schools program, supporting aquariums in schools throughout Pennsylvania and neighboring states. Larry is a lifelong freshwater and 15-year reef hobbyist. He manages 5 separate reef systems with a total of 45 interconnected tanks ranging in size from 10 gallons to 550 gallons at the Williamsport Area High School. Larry works with his students to breed clownfish and propagate coral and anemones. So welcome, Larry. And during the presentation, he may not notice your comments because he's, presenting. So save your comments or questions or put them in the YouTube comments. We'll get to them at the end. So I'll switch to yours. And I'm going to pop out.
Okay, thanks. Good to see everybody virtually, I guess. This is the way we're doing it for now. Thanks for the introduction. I've been teaching at Williamsport Area High School in Williamsport, Pennsylvania for 22 years, and I've been involved with the Reef Conservation Society, which was originally founded as an organization called the North Central Pennsylvania Aquarium Reef Society, but we changed our name a few years ago. I've been involved with that for quite a few years. Like Callie mentioned, I'm a lifelong aquarium hobbyist. I had aquariums since I was a little kid. I used to go fishing all the time. There was a creek behind our house, so I was always catching minnows and crayfish and frogs and all kinds of stuff like that. More recently, I was involved with freshwater breeding. I was breeding frontosas and all kinds of Malawians and Tanganyikans. I was into that for quite a few years. Here's some little frontosas. That was a great bit of the hobby. We have freshwater tanks at our high school, and we've been involved with the Pennsylvania Trout in the Classroom program for quite a few years. We didn't do it this past year, but these are the trout eggs that we get in, and then we raise brook trout and release them in a local stream. So I have a lot of experience with freshwater stuff, with freshwater breeding, freshwater aquarium keeping. We have a planted tank at school, some goldfish tanks, some other assorted stuff at our high school. So I first got involved with the saltwater hobby. Let's see, it was probably 14 years ago or so. And this is a 65-gallon aquarium that my wife and I got. We bought the whole setup off somebody on eBay, and I moved the whole thing at once, which I thought wasn't going to be a big deal, but it turned out to be like a colossal amount of work. That was the introduction to the hobby. Got some soft coral, got some fish, things like you usually see in Finding Nemo. We set up a 90-gallon aquarium in our home and a 110-gallon aquarium. This is a little biocube that we had, and all that was really exciting. And then I got an opportunity on a 240-gallon tank. So this is a 240 that we had in our living room. It's 8 feet long. And we ran that for quite a few years until we decided to replace the floor in our home. And you can't replace your floor if you got an aquarium on it. So this is like another picture of the tank in our living room, and we really enjoyed it. I'm really into design and build and engineering. There's a YouTube video that has a lot of views. If you search for aquarium canopy lift, you'll see the video of this canopy system. It has a linear actuator and some hydraulic struts. And with a switch, I'm able to lift the whole aquarium up 2 feet from the top of the tank itself for easy access. It was an acrylic aquarium, which had relatively small holes in the top of it. And the sump is located down in the basement. So that was my first really big engineering project with building aquariums. So anyway, a little bit about the Reef Conservation Society. I was a club member, and then we got into doing aquariums in schools. And it turns out I'd had a couple aquariums in our school already. And I served as the vice president of education for quite a while. And then we were the North Central Pennsylvania Aquarium Reef Society, but we have members from all over Pennsylvania. We do swaps in southeastern Pennsylvania. If you're in the saltwater hobby, you may have come to one of our swaps in Lancaster at the Pet Place. So we changed our name to the Reef Conservation Society quite a few years back. And our main goal is to provide reef education and run a tanks in schools program. So that's the kind of thing I want to share with you today. You can get to our site at reefconservationsociety.org or reefcon.org. We have tanks in schools, a variety of different schools all around Pennsylvania and some neighboring states, some elementary schools, some high schools, private schools, public schools. We partner with some colleges, and our level of involvement with different schools varies, all the way from we just provide absolutely everything, the whole tank setup, all the livestock. And some of our partners, we just provide livestock or discount purchasing or whatever like that. So our goal is to get as many aquariums, especially reef aquariums, into schools so that people can grow up and appreciate reef aquariums. So here are some examples. I'll just run through these relatively quickly. This was a tank at Williamsport High School, which is in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. It's where the relatively well-known Bloomsburg Fair is. Lake Lehman High School is in like the back mountain area west of Wilkes-Barre. This is a 90-gallon and 110-gallon aquarium that turned out to be interconnected to each other. They also have a 180, and they have a frag tank system. That stand was built by one of their career and technical students as a completion project for their senior year in their construction trades program. And the acrylic aquariums we purchased, and we provide all the coral. So pretty much in all these schools, if you see coral and live rock, that all comes from the school where I teach, Williamsport Area High School, which I'll share quite a bit about. This is Northwest Area High School, which is in Chickasha, Pennsylvania. They had a few different aquariums that are interconnected. they ended up with a 240-gallon aquarium. I don't have a picture of that handy in this slide deck. Solomon Plains Elementary School, which is in Wilkes-Barre, we donated to them a BioCube setup that was actually donated to us by Central Aquatics. In some of these pictures, the water looks cloudy, and that's simply because I took the picture the day I set it up. And if you know anything about setting up reef tanks, they're usually relatively cloudy immediately when you get them set up. Heights Murray, yeah, that one's not right. This one is not Heights Murray. This is another school, but that's another reef aquarium. This was a full setup. We provided absolutely everything for them. Lycoming College, we've partnered with them a couple times in a couple different ways. They're here in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. They kind of contracted with me to move an aquarium for them. And we moved that aquarium. While we were moving the aquarium, we noticed that the top brace was broken. And if you know anything about top braces on aquariums, you should never use them if the brace is broken. So we bought a 220-gallon aquarium and provided that to them. All the live rock and coral in this tank comes from Williamsport Area High School. That's not long after it's set up here in this picture. If you might know, there's a large aquarium at Penn State University. Sanjay Yoshi and a couple other guys run that tank. It's a 500-gallon aquarium in their hub, and it's gone through an evolution over time. And if you visit it now, you'll see that that tank has a lot of soft coral in it, and nearly all the soft coral was provided from Williamsport High School. So although we're not directly a sponsor at all of the Penn State University Park Aquarium, we did donate coral to that aquarium. Some of our coral can be seen at the Electric City Aquarium in Scranton. If you see coral in a school or educational setting, it very well could be related to our tank and school program. You'll see work that some of our students do at the school where I teach. A lot of what we do besides like the livestock is work on tank setups. So this is a tank that was donated to us, and my students repainted it, and then we built a filtration system, got the lighting all set up, and everything ready to go. And then what we do is pack it all up and drive and deliver it in one shot. So we've learned that, you know, all tanks need to be cycled, but if we deliver a dry tank and take all of the live rock, all the live water, all the coral, and all the fish from a well-established system that's been running for a very long time, we can drop that in the tank and it becomes relatively plug and play. And we've had very, very, very good success. That system has worked for us. So this is the aquarium, and then we delivered it to the school. And this is actually the setup day. They had no loss of fish. The coral thrived. Everything just worked okay. So it's a big job to deliver it all at once. But that's one way that you can do it. And people still tell me you can't do it that way. But we've done it that way, and it works. It's a lot of work to set up all in one shot, but we've been able to manage that. This teacher is a very involved teacher in her school. She has a different theme every year for her classroom, and she wanted to do like a fish theme and reached out to me. The entire wall, the whole classroom is like under the sea, and then we got the aquarium for her. And that was her theme last year, and then, or 2 years ago, and then she kept it for a whole nother year. This is another frag tank that was set up at a school. So the thing about reef aquariums and their importance in schools is, we're trying to replicate the conditions on a coral reef. There's a huge diversity of life. If you have a reef tank, you know that there's so many more critters running around and doing their stuff, both good and bad, in a reef tank than in a simple freshwater aquarium. They're very challenging, but it's very rewarding. And if you like to design and build aquarium systems, there's nothing better than a reef aquarium if you're like into engineering and stuff. All the fundamentals of reef aquariums are very much the same as freshwater aquariums. So introducing students to the aquarium fundamentals for reef tanks goes along perfectly with freshwater tanks. Of course, there are some differences, but the fundamentals are pretty much the same. I teach an oceanography course at the high school where I teach, and when we talk about replicating what nature does in the aquarium itself, you can make direct connections between natural, physical, chemical, and biological processes on the earth and the kind of equipment and setup you're trying to establish, like in the tank itself. The connections students make in schools, there are direct connections in biochem, earth science, ecology, environmental science to the aquarium. We're able to meet lots of Pennsylvania science standards. Students who get involved with these aquariums, their daily maintenance in water testing and feeding the fish and noticing changes and looking for growth in coral, they really take a great amount of ownership and pride. Some students we have in some of the schools come from homes where they would never have a reef aquarium, or for all kinds of different reasons. But the school is the place where they can take pride and ownership in that. They also get to meet lots of challenges. Sometimes we have failures. Sometimes we have, tanks that leak, equipment that breaks, fish that die, and you have to be able to like work through those kind of things. So students get a good appreciation of that. All right, so the school where I teach is Williamsport Area High School. We're in north central Pennsylvania. We're not really kind of near much at all. We're kind of between Scranton and State College. We're a little over an hour drive north of Harrisburg. Williamsport is best known for Little League Baseball. We're the home of the Little League World Series, which unfortunately is not happening this year for obvious reasons. But we have a relatively large high school, and in our school, my students and I, we manage a pretty large set of aquarium systems. This is a photograph at the top of some display aquariums that we have in the main hub of our school. There's a 550, a 300, another 300, and a 125 there. In total, there are 48 aquariums that are not all separate tanks, but there are 5 separate aquarium systems. Some systems, it's one tank. The largest system has 37 tanks. It all got started at our school with a 125-gallon aquarium. Someone I know sort of donated it to us, and we put it in at the school. This is the tank when we first put it in and got some coral from my home tank. And then this is where the coral's grown in a little bit. And then the system just sort of grew. So what you're looking at here is the hallway right in the main floor of the building in what we call the hub. The building is built in a hub and spoke model. So about 2,000 people walk right by these aquariums every single day. From left to right, it's a 550, 300, another 125 and a 300. The TVs over top of the aquariums aren't on in this picture, but they display information throughout the day, and I'll show you how that works. The left one's a 550-gallon aquarium. The right one's a 300. And then this is in the fish room. So what you're looking at is the back side of the aquariums themselves. On the right-hand side, the rightmost tank, that's the 550-gallon aquarium. And everything in there is all interconnected, stuff in this room and one other room. So there's an awful lot of frag tanks. There's tanks where we grow coral, where we breed clownfish. But altogether, these tanks are all interconnected into one water system. This is another view of the room. So in the middle of the room, there's a set of 6 40-gallon tanks. And then there's a whole bunch of sumps around the room. So what we do is all the water runs from the tanks down into the sumps. And we pump the water around the room. It's not much looking inside the fish room. There's wires and stuff everywhere. We try to be as safe as we can. The insurance company just tells us, don't let any wires touch the floor. Otherwise, we don't really want to know about it. As long as there's no wires on the floor, they're happy. This is another adjoining room. This is a separate system. We mainly grow soft coral in here, but that's also a place where we raise our baby clownfish. With the big fish room, there's about 3,500 gallons of water in there. We have 2 very large protein skimmers. All the filtration is all like up on one other level. All right, so 2 of the big things that I do with my students, well, a couple different things. One of them is coral. So the coral grows pretty quickly, and we frag coral. We cut fragments of coral, mount it, let it heal, and then we sell it at frag swaps. So one of the major ways we're able to support the Tanks in Schools program is through the propagation of coral. Here's students like cutting coral on a bandsaw, and you can see there them lining up pieces of coral on a rack as the super glue is drying. Here are some other students. Usually we work out of these coolers, which we also use to transport coral, and you can see some of our tanks in my classroom in the background. This is in an oceanography class, and we have a saying in science, if you're not writing it down, you're screwing around. So they're not just cutting coral. They cut the coral, mount it onto pre-weighed plugs, and record the mass on the paper there. And then we let them grow out, and then record the mass of the coral after some period of time of growth. One thing we know is that some certain species of coral grow relatively quickly when they're cut really small. Other ones take a really long time to get growing again. So we try to optimize the size at which we cut each coral species to allow for the fastest rate of reproduction. Here's another group of students. If they look like twins, it's because they are working with some Bacillopora coral. And these are pictures of coral inside our frag tanks. So we have, I don't know, 100 or 200 different varieties of individual coral, soft coral, stony coral, all kinds of different stuff. This is mostly a stony coral tank. All kinds of different colors, all kinds of different shapes. This is a bigger view of 2 of our frag tanks. Those tanks measure 3 feet by 4 feet. So you're looking at 24 square feet of growing area. Another thing we do is raise clownfish. So here's a pair of clownfish. If you don't know about clownfish breeding, it's relatively tricky. It's very time consuming. There's a lot of failure until you get the hang of it. This pair of clowns, we were able to, I guess you could say, train them to lay their eggs on this ceramic tile. This is immediately after the eggs are laid. They're bright orange color. After a couple days, you start to see their eyes. Those little black dots on there are their eyes. And then as they develop further, the eyes get a little bit of silver color. And then once pretty much all the clowns have silverish eyes, the next day or 2 days after is when they hatch out. And the hatch out procedure, that's the tricky part. And then when you get them hatched out, you got to get them on live rotifers. So here's a tank. There's not much to see. Those little tiny specks, those are baby clownfish. Here they are a little bit further along. Written on the tank is the time and date that they hatch. They hatch at night. So I have to go back up to school, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, and, do the hatch out. So there's maybe about 200 clowns in that tank. You can maybe see their white stripes on the orange. Here they are a little bit further along. And then there they are as full-size juveniles. And we're able to move them off of live rotifers. We get them straight onto Odaheim. We don't even do brine shrimp or anything else. We go straight from rotifers to ground up Odaheim meal and raise them up, and we sell them. And we get $5 a piece at the school, or when we take them on the road, they're $10. That's how we do it. If you sell enough of them, you make some good money. And people are always in a contest for different size aquariums. So here's one of the smallest aquariums ever. This is a little end of a round cuvette with 2 fish. They were only in there for just a minute or 2 to get the picture. So if you want to compete with me for the smallest aquarium, there's a small Reef Aquarium with 2 clownfish about 4 days old. No, about a week old or so. We had that 125-gallon tank, and then the class of 2010 at our high school wanted to do an under the sea theme for their prom. So they're like, hey, can we get a big fish tank for our prom? And I'm like, yeah, I guess, if you're going to pay for it. And they had a pretty big room to fill, so we wanted to get a big tank. So that's a 300-gallon tank. We bought that and took it to the school, got it all set up. This setup went down a set of stairs into the basement of a building where the prom was. We took it in on a Thursday, had the prom on a Saturday, took it back to the school on a Sunday. Don't recommend doing that. It's an awful lot of work, but we had a full reef tank. Students get to design and build aquarium systems. This was a niche in a hallway at our high school. So here you see a student like measuring off for a stand. They framed this stand in there, got the tank set up, put doors with a key on it that had clownfish. Now we actually just keep goldfish in that tank, but that's one of the build processes. We've been building LED lighting since 2009, which is very early. This is a little bit later. Students build LED lights, all the soldering, all that kind of stuff. This is a 650-gallon aquarium we once had at the school. We developed a leak on the front window. It's a fiberglass tank with a polycarbonate window. Students did all the rock work in the tank. Here's a student teacher of mine and a student putting dividers in a tank with silicone. And so students learn about woodworking and painting. We do all the electrical, we do all the plumbing. They are involved with designing and building the whole system. We take tanks on donation. This was one that was donated to us that was a leaker. So these are students disassembling the tank, and then we ended up rebuilding the entire tank, and it went out to a school. It's still working. Here's another set of tanks. Those big frag tanks there we built from glass that students cut. Another tank that they cut. This is a saltwater mixing system. They did all the plumbing for this. That's where we make up our saltwater for water changes. We do 500-gallon water changes on a weekly basis in the main fish room. So we go through quite a bit of salt. This is the 550-gallon aquarium when it got delivered. And students built this light rack to attach Ecotech Marine lights onto a system. If you see the ropes there on the left and right, that's hoisted up and down with a pulley. And then, built this shelf to put the lights on. This is another expansion to our fish room. You can see in the left-hand picture how there's pipes that go through the wall. We contracted with a company to core cut through the brick to be able to put our return and overflow lines from those tanks. But there's 15 tanks where we raise clownfish on the top, and then 3 tanks for coral on the bottom. There's another protein skimmer and a calcium reactor in that room. We have an engineering and design CTE program at our high school, and students do different sorts of projects related to the Reef Aquarium. One of them was a solar panel project. So we have these solar panels which recharges deep cycle 12-volt batteries, which then run Ecotech Marine Vortec pumps completely off solar, completely DC. I had another student design a coin-operated fish feeder. So what you see there is a cash box. Students put a quarter in. That quarter then goes to a controller, which is a picture on the right-hand side, and that controller triggers a regular rotating fish feeder to drop fish in a 550-gallon aquarium, and has a limit of 20 feeds a day, but we have a lot of fish in there, so that's not too much for them. So students can feed the fish. This is the student who built that system, and that's WBRE TV coming to report. And you can search that on YouTube and find the fish feeder. These are other students doing a project with wiring to put up a new TV, and a new project. This past year, we built a saltwater paludarium. This is a panel we put on a wall to give a nice background. And the paludarium tank is high on the back and short on the front, and it's to simulate a shoreline. So the shore is like on the right, the left-hand side is like deeper water, and we have mangrove trees in there and seagrass. So it's kind of like a sandy shore coming up to a rocky area, as best as we can kind of simulate like an estuary or a shallow area. To promote our work, we've exhibited at MACNA, the Marine Aquarium Society of North America, Marine Aquarium Conference of North America. A couple of years ago, this was the one in Washington, D.C. Central Aquatics provided the booth for us, and then we donated that whole tank full of coral to a raffle. One winner won 55 individual separate coral in a prize. We've also exhibited at Aquatic Experience. This is one of our booths from there. And we've done a little bit of promo work with Marineland. If you watch Instant Ocean videos on YouTube, or you've seen Marineland brand ads, a lot of the B-roll is made at our school, and our students are actually in that too. This is a video crew shooting our students in a couple different ways. So Marineland and Instant Ocean, sometimes they use our school. Fritz is a big sponsor for us. We go through 2 pallets of salt every 9 months. So this is like our salt load for a little while. They've been helpful, but we still have a lot of expense with running everything. So our frag swaps, this is one of our students selling prepackaged coral at a frag swap. That's an LED light that they built. We exhibit at Reef in New York City, well, in the Meadowlands. This was our booth. Here we go by Millionaire Coral. The mascot of our high school is the Millionaire, because at one time we had more millionaires per capita in Williamsport apparently than anywhere in the world due to the lumber industry. So our school mascot's the Millionaire, and when we go on the road, we are Millionaire Coral. And so all that coral we sell, and we sell dry goods. We also host swaps at our school. This is a swap from last April with vendors who come in, and people can tour the fish room and see absolutely everything we have. Our society also hosts swaps at the Pet Place in Lancaster, typically every October and January. And our school program is featured in Coral magazine in the July-August 2013 issue. So if you get coral and you happen to have your back issues, you can dig through it and see what we did. This is a picture of some of our students in our library tank, which is 125. And there's a huge leather coral in there, and we propagate tons of Sherman's rose bubble tip anemones. We get about 50 a year that are babies in that tank. That's a pretty prolific tank. This is an old picture of the fish room from above, and some coral and some students doing work and whatnot. It was in the magazine. So our work has been affected by COVID-19, much like Kelly mentioned how your club has had some challenges. We typically have a frag swap in April. It was going to be at Williamsport High School. That got canceled. Our fall and winter swaps are still uncertain. We usually exhibit at Reef and sell a lot of coral in June. That's been postponed until December. And then on a larger scale, we ask school districts to help support the aquariums in their schools, and it's not certain what kind of support they'll be able to offer. And it's not clear how all of the COVID shutdown will affect the reef or the aquarium business from the manufacturing and marketing side. So our support from sponsors is a little uncertain. Another thing about the schools is when we ask schools to take an aquarium, we require them to provide year-round support. So there has to be a teacher. And a lot of our teachers are reef hobbyists who have to go in on weekends. Christmas break is not a break for the fish. They have to be fed. And summer break is the long haul. So typically summer break is about 10 weeks. We went out on March 13th. So our teachers in our program are now offering, it'll be a 23-week stretch from March till the end of August whenever we go back, so that students can start helping out. At some schools, it's not a big deal. You go and do a little this, a little that. You can skip a couple days in between. For me, it's quite a lot of work because my students do a lot of the work. It's a pretty big system with an awful lot of stuff going on. So it's quite a stretch for me this summer. But think of the teachers who have aquariums in schools. There are teachers who run greenhouses. There are teachers who have like all kinds of lizards and reptiles and stuff, and mammals in their classroom. It's a much longer stretch than typical. So didn't want to go on too long, but I'll take all your questions. I'll try to read down through the questions here in a bit. You can find lots of information about our organization online. You can go to reefcon.org. You can find Reef Conservation Society on Facebook. If you search for me on YouTube, go to YouTube and type Lawrence Flint. I should be the first one that comes up. Now, my channel's got all kinds of stuff. It's got me teaching some physics. It's got launching rockets. It's got all kinds of stuff. But mixed in there are videos of clownfish actually laying eggs. There's videos of clownfish hatching. There's videos of trout being released from our tanks into streams. So you can find fishy videos on YouTube. Visit with us at Frag Swaps. We'll announce that. You can visit me at the school sometime in the future. Can't tell you when that's going to be. We absolutely aren't taking visitors now. And it's not certain, even once school is back in September, that any visitors will be permitted in the building. So, but the tanks aren't going anywhere. I'm there and the tanks are there. And sometime in the future, you can reach out to me if you want to see the tanks, or we sell coral directly from the school. I don't have any clownfish right now, but we take visitors, just not now. It's going to be a while. My email address is chemtchr@yahoo.com. And I guess a shameless plug, we do take donations through Donors Choose. So Donors Choose is an organization that helps teachers get things for their classrooms. And I don't have an active project there right now, but you can see the kind of projects that we've completed in the recent past. My shortcut is donorschoose.org/aquarium. I also gave a talk on sustainable reef keeping and coral propagation and like tanks in schools as a TED talk. It was a few years back. It was at TEDx Williamsport. So if you search TEDx and then Larry Flint, you'll find a talk from me about sustainable reef keeping. So that was that. I hope that was useful. Let me see if, I hope it wasn't too fast, hope it wasn't too slow. I hope there was enough stuff in there. I can try to like, Callie, did you want to moderate questions? You want me to just like look through them?
I can go to the top and kind of feed you stuff as we go.
Okay.
I've been searching for links. I've been throwing a bunch of them within the comments, so people should have access to the things that you mentioned. So let's see what people asked.
I see a hi, Mr. Flint. So I don't know if that's a former student or just you're just being nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I see someone mention about involved with raising and releasing trout in the school. The Trout in the Classroom program is extraordinary. Volunteers help distribute eggs to schools. We raise them right from egg all the way to the release. It's one of the coolest things ever. I taught for a long time before I even knew about it. Went to a quick training in the summer. So if you don't know any teachers, all the school needs is a 55-gallon tank, but you got to have a chiller because those things have to be cold. That water, 55-degree water, feels like it might as well be at the freezing point. So somebody says they had 4 tanks in their high school teacher had 4 tanks in your classroom. Josh, cool. Let's get in touch. The auto lift top was cool. I saw that. So the thing is the canopy I bought was really like low profile. It was only like about a foot off the tank. And once I put metal halide reflectors in there, I couldn't even get my arm inside there. So I'm like, I got to lift this thing up. And I was going to hinge it and all kinds of stuff like that. And then I saw about the lift, and that was pretty cool. There's other lift videos on YouTube. Contact me. Yeah, the Penn State Aquarium is really, really good. The Penn State Aquarium was provided as a gift by one of the classes. And some of the founders of our club are Penn State professors who work with and manage that system. Let's see. Oh, the mini bandsaw. Yeah, that's a Griffin mini bandsaw. There's a couple different brands of them. You don't want to just buy a regular bandsaw because it'll just rust out. These are like made of plastic and whatnot. The fish feeder is really cool. So the fish feeder, here's the background of that. A student of mine went to like a zoo or like an outdoor park and was like, hey, they had this really cool thing at the zoo where you could like put a quarter in and it gave you, I don't know, peanuts or something like that. And you throw them to the ducks. And like, we should have that for the school. The thing with our tanks for the hallway is they're actually separated from the hallway by fire rated glass, so they can't get in. And we also didn't want students to be able to like directly drop stuff in. So right. I left it to my students to come up with, it was like an engineering challenge. How do we accept the money in the hallway and then feed them in the classroom? That's good. Thanks for the feedback about Reefapalooza. One of my favorite booths at Reefapalooza. That's been very successful for us. It's been really good. Yeah, we're able to maintain the aquarium. So what happened in every state was a little bit different. The school that we work with in Williamsport, Maryland, the teachers were pretty much locked out of the school. So the principal had to do everything there. But here in Pennsylvania, it kind of came down to every school district. And very quickly, I had a conversation with our principal and through the superintendent. You know, they were like, what do you need to do? I'm like, I need to come in and take care of the tanks at least every other day. And I explained to them the importance and what we have to do. So, yeah, I was able to get in, but teachers generally are not allowed into the building yet. So the water changes and tank cleaning for tanks in schools in general has to be done by teachers. You know, we got to have a way to make up RO water. In our school, my students and I, we do the water changes themselves. Not only you have to make the RO water up, you got to have access to salt, and that adds up pretty quick. And the cost to put a tank in a school, it depends upon the way in which we organize stuff. If sometimes I get lucky, like let's say I happen to have a BioCube and the school is air conditioned, we can just get that set up. If somebody wants like a 300-gallon reef and there's no air conditioning, now you're talking about chillers, lots of light. We have to have some kind of a partnership. So it's kind of negotiated between the club and the school and whatnot. Do we have snails in our tanks? Yes, we do. The rotifer setup. So we do rotifers in 5-gallon buckets, and it's like what's the company? I don't know. There's a company that sells these kits with a 5-gallon bucket, and you use an air stone. I've found that the less you do with rotifers, the more likely they are to survive. People are like, you have to harvest them every day. You have to do water changes every day. I've found that we just kind of like let it roll. I can talk to you more individually if you want. Are we a state and federal nonprofit? Yes, we're a 501c3 nonprofit. We have a federal ID number, and the state knows about us. Everybody knows about us, but we're legit. And yes, Odyssey of the Mind was at Williamsport High School in 2009. And I coached a team one year that the state championship was there too, but I don't remember what year that was. And species of clownfish, mostly Ocellaris clownfish. We've also done snowflake clowns. We had a pair of pink skunk clowns that bred like crazy for us. They were on the money, and they had like 1,000 babies at a time. But the pink skunk clowns are so hard to raise. They are so delicate and so tiny. We've tried black saddle clowns. They're very, very, very hard to raise. I have a pair of all black, I mean, totally black midnight clowns, and they lay eggs from time to time, but they're not like into it yet. It takes a while before they get into a regular routine. But pretty much Ocellaris, we've kind of also got Ocellaris. Can use frozen rotifers if you have decent water circulation. The baby clowns, they have to eat live rotifers. They've got to be within a body length distance, and they've got to be able to see them. So you have to have a high enough density of live rotifers. They need to see the motion, and if they're more than a body length or two in front, they just don't see them. And there's other problems with baby clowns, like you got to have a heater in the tank, but if your heater's got a light, those fish will swim toward that light and they'll burn their little faces up. So titanium heaters are a good trick. So live rotifers, people also use live copepods. I know that his name doesn't come to me, but let's see, it's that aquarium in Rhode Island, and they raise them on copepods, and they have an automated system that automatically like doses live copepods into their clownfish breeding things. And do we solicit from manufacturers and wholesalers for donations? Absolutely. We solicit for raffles at our swaps, and we try to work really hard to get donations of individual things. That paludarium tank I described toward the end was actually donated by Custom Aquariums. That's the company that we purchased the 550-gallon aquarium from. We've had very important relationships with Marineland in the past, with Central Aquatics. We have wholesale purchase agreements to be able to buy what we need to buy. Can't give you too much detail, but it's very difficult. An individual teacher, an individual school, it's hard for them to like break into that. And for years, we had a hard time getting to the level that we are now. Yes, Ted Judy's company, Custom Aquariums. And my wife and I went there to pick up that tank last year. We drove right out to Wisconsin. It's quite a facility. They build really incredible tanks. So, all right, I think I'm caught up with the questions. If you have other questions, I'll be happy to take them here or take them on like by email or whatever.
Yep, and thank you again for coming to speak with us. And do we have Sherry with the Raffle Winners? Sherry, if you could pull our 2 winners. Oh, she has it. Okay. Second place with the $40 Salt Critters gift certificate is Carol Ross. And the first place with the $60 certificate to Salt Critters is Bill Druding. So congratulations, everybody. And Tom, I think those are they physical or are they online vouchers? Do you know? I think Tom's in the comments here. But either way, winners, ask Tom about your gift certificates and he'll either mail them or send you the code or what have you on that. And again, if you have not checked it out already, we do have an auction, which I'm going to share and show you just real quick. Yeah, so if you go to the link that is within the comments for Bucks County members, we have a little auction, view all items. There are 6 tank setups. A 125, a 20-gallon bow, which is this little one back here. Sorry, I didn't get a better picture on that. 265, 40-gallon bow with DIY stand. 75-gallon with DIY stand, which is actually sized so you can fit another 75 below it if you really wanted to, which is convenient because there's also another 75 over here that you could purchase and then put them together if you really wanted to, because this one doesn't have a stand. But it does come with these lights, and they all come with filters. There's, I think, 2 FX6s or an FX6 and an FF5 or something in here. This one has one and a sump. There's a bunch of little assorted canister filters everywhere. So go ahead and bid, because I'm taking it down at 11 tonight, and I do not want to move them myself. So please take pity on me. All of the money is going to the club. So he just gave these tanks to us. This is pure profit for the club. So keep that in mind when you're bidding. And take care, everybody. I think that's a wrap. So bye and see you next month.
Thank you.